Hey everyone, what's up? Today I'm going to show you how to make this simple animation using just Photoshop and After Effects. It's really simple to do, so let's get into it. Let's open the image in Photoshop. I have it here. Let's cut her out first, and then we can look into the background afterwards. So let's start by duplicating the background by just dragging it into this plus icon. Let's rename it to woman. You could do it in multiple ways. You can take the slow approach, which is to take the pen tool and just go all around it like this. That takes forever. So let's do something else. Let's go into select, subject. Let's see what happens. And it's usually pretty good. As you can see, it missed some spot down here and there's some cleanup to do around here, but it's fine for now. Let's zoom in by Control plus. Let's take this one, polygon lasso tool. Holding shift, I can add to the mask, so I'm just gonna go and adjust it a little bit. I could use the pen tool for this too, but this is fine. I can always add to it in After Effects later, so it's just to get the small details added as well, and I missed the spot. There you go, and here as well. Where else? There's some here, so I'm just gonna trace over the places missed, like this, and here. Holding space, I can shift to the dragging tool, so I can move around the image, like so. Let's add this little. So if I hold Alt or Option on Mac, I can subtract from the mask. So let's get this out. There you go. And let's remove this as well, and add this little thingy here. And remove this little spot. So I think this is good for now. There's a small spot here. That should be, no, here you go. And this one. Close enough, I think. With the selection still on, let's click on this icon, the mask tool, and as you can see now, we have just her isolated by herself. So now we need to remove her from the background itself, so let's add the selection again by holding Control and clicking this one. We can activate the selection again, click on this, and let's expand the selection just a little bit. Just like so. Let's go into edit and say generative fill, and just click generate. I'm using the Photoshop beta where this is in, otherwise you have to mask it and draw it by yourself by using the stamp tool. Well, not perfect. Let's see what else. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Let's remove this one again. Let's try it again. Let's expand it again, even more, so it has something to work with. Let's say 5 pixels. Let's try generative fill again. It's a hit and miss. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. You have to try it a few times. See, now it worked. That was good. Let's take these two and merge them by going into this little menu. Click merge layers. There you go. Let's go background. And now we have her, and we have, for some reason it added a tower. Let's remove that because that annoys me. So let's do this, because they're gonna mess everything up later when we're gonna add some animation to the background. So let's remove this by going into edit. See what it does. There you go. And now we have two towers or something in the background. Let's remove those as well by clicking on the stamp tool. Let's increase the size by going into this one. Just do something like this. Let's drop this. Make sure that sample all layers. Sample this and just go. Let's merge them again. Control E. And let's remove this little thing over here. I could do it the easy way. Just do like this. Save. And let's move into After Effects and add all the effects. Here we are in After Effects. Let's import our image. I can double click here on the project tab. Just double clicking. Here. Gonna import it as composition, retain layer sizes. That's it. Use editable layer styles. Let's add some folders for organization. Let's call this assets. Let's have one for precoms. And let's have one for final. Let's pull the layers into assets and have this one into final. Now that with that out of the way, let's take our composition, which is the animation. Nothing happening so far. Let's make sure it's 10 seconds. So let's go into composition settings. Make the duration 10, just because it's easier to work with. All of this we can change later, but for now 10 seconds is fine. Now we have the background. Let's separate it into foreground elements and background elements, right? For now, let's have, I duplicated it by Control D. Let's call it foreground. And let's use the mask tool to just mask it out. So I'm taking the pen tool with the layer selected, and you can just draw a mask across. Doesn't have to be perfect, we can always adjust it later, but for now this is fine. I've imported my assets. Let's start by adding some smoke here, like the fire is raging below the cliff. Let's see if we can find something that works. Just drag it into the layer stack here on top. So let's place it below the foreground so it looks like it's coming from below. Let's adjust it a little bit. Right now I'm focusing on this area, so let's move it over. Add a fill effect. Drag it onto this. Red is maybe okay, actually. It's a bit much. Let's adjust the color a little bit, making it more orange. Maybe lower the opacity a little bit, and let's untwirl this. Go into transform, opacity, set it to say 70. Control D to duplicate, right click, transform, flip horizontal, just move it over here. So let's add a mask to this. Let's mark the layer, draw a rectangle, do like this. Right now it's masking this area, but I want to invert it. So now we have only this area over here is visible. Let's add some more fire to the background. I think we need one here and maybe something over here somewhere. Let's go into our project panel. Let's find a nice good fire like this one. Add it to the background. Let's set it to add, just to make it blend in even more. Make sure we select our selection tool. Let's just scale it down. Zoom in, place it. And even though the clip is like 20 seconds, it's not noticeable that it jumps when we loop it. Maybe we should add some Gaussian blur to it just to make it blend in even more. See how Good. Let's add one more to the other side somewhere. Let's add this one. Let's make sure that it's set to either screen or add. Screen is okay. See if add has a little more vibrancy to it. Scale it down. Even more actually. I would like to place it somewhere here where it makes sense. I want to add some glowing lights to these and this, and over here and here as well. So let's deselect all layers. Remember to save. Add a ellipse tool. Draw a circle right about there. Let's pick a nice orange color, like a fire orange, like this one. Good. Let's Gaussian blur again. Let's crank it all the way up. See, now we have an issue with the repeating edge pixels. So let's turn that off so we have just a big blur. So I want to have this one wiggling back and forth in the opacity so it looks like a fire is burning inside. So let's put it to add. Scale it down a little bit. I just noticed another thing. This one over here is annoying me. I want to have it in the center so I can easily move it. If we were to scale it, it would scale from over here, which would throw off everything. Let's call this glow. Place it back where we want it. Scale it down a little bit. Alright, now I want this to randomly have the opacity go up and down so it looks like a fire is burning inside this building. And to do that, I'm going to write an expression on the opacity effect. So let's turn it down first, let's say 60%. And then let's add a wiggle expression to that loops, so I don't have to keyframe all the opacity changes. So I found this resource, Expressioneer's design guide, where they have a looping wiggle, which we're going to use. It's perfect. I'm using it for many years. While holding Alt or Option, click on the opacity stopwatch. This will activate the expressions, and then you can paste in the expression we just copied. Let's change the loop time for 10 seconds and the frequency to 5 and amplitude to 90, which means that in 5 times per second it's gonna randomly change opacity with 90 increments from 0 to 100. Let's see how that looks. This is a bit much, should we say 8 perhaps in frequency. That's good. Let's scale it down, so it's only affecting the window here. I like that. Good. Duplicate the layer. Let's move it to these windows perhaps. And since the wiggle expression is random, they're not gonna loop the same speed. This one we can probably scale down even more. Let's do one more. Place it next to, like so. Alright, final thing I want to add just to the background, at least, is some sparks. I want to put it behind the foreground. Let me just lock everything except the slow sparks, so I don't accidentally change it. And let's put it to screen, or add rather. Let's change it a little bit so it doesn't come on from the start. Maybe change transform, horizontal, flip. So we have it over here where nothing really. So it shoots up around here. And for good measure we can add another one over here. Just down here, and let's say add. So let's do our trick where we feather it out. There we go. Take the mask, invert it, and just up the feather here. Just drag it until you see kind of where it starts to blend out. We can even take one more move it over. So we have one more, so it doesn't just stop. So far so good. We have pretty content with this. I would like to add some moving skies to this. Okay, I duplicated the background and called the sky. I've masked out the sky here, or the horizon, with a very bad mask, but let's fix that afterward. Now we have it separated out, so let's go into this, recompose it. Let's go into this. Let's add the corner pin. If you don't see it over here, you can always type corner and drag it onto the image. Let's set some keyframes. Just highlight all of them. Go all the way to the end. Let's drag these out. It's gonna look a bit funky, but stick with me here because it's gonna work. So we're gonna distort the image like so. So I want my loop to be 5 seconds, so I can duplicate it and turn it into 10 seconds. So let's go here, Command-Shift-D to cut and split. Drag the ends towards the start. This one is good as it is. Let's add an opacity and fade between the two images. I'm pressing T, opacity 100. Let's drag it all the way down here somewhere like this. Let's say 0 here. I'm pressing N to stop the timeline there. So let's see how it looks. Now it should loop perfectly. Except this little part. And of course you can see it over here, but in the skies it's not going to be visible. So let's right click here, trim comp to work area. It should be 5 seconds now. So we can take this, duplicate it, Control D, drag it all the way to the end, and they should line up perfectly. You said and didn't line them up, there you go. Good. Let's pre-compose those two layers, call it Sky Loop. 10 seconds. Pre-comp. Let's go back to projects and remove it like this. And let's scale this up a bit and take it down. And as you can see now, we need to do something with this mask because this looks awful. But the sky should move a little bit now and loop perfectly. Good. Let's do something with this. We could see if we could feather it out, and that could solve it. Otherwise we have to draw the mask perfectly. I don't want to do that if I avoid it. So let's just expand it, or rather fade it. So let's see how it looks. So there you have it, a perfect loop. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.